toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the messenger, the spirit of guidance. Tonight our theme is vibrations and connection, and I'd like to start with a passage from Hazrat Inayat Khan. The mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms are the gradual changes of vibrations, and the vibrations of each plane differ from one another in their weight, breadth, length, color, effect, sound, and rhythm. The human is not only formed of vibrations, but they live and move in them. They surround them as the fish is surrounded by water, and the human contains them within themselves as the tank contains water. Their different moods, inclinations, affairs, successes and failures, and all conditions of life depend on a certain activity of vibrations, whether these be thoughts, emotions, or feelings. So we've talked before about the fact that the way that we come to know anything is through our relationship with it. And we could say that vibration is the modality by which there's a communication with everything that we experience. And that communication can take place internally, in our inner experiences in meditation, and it certainly takes place constantly throughout the day in our daily life. So we could say these vibrations embody different forms of light infused with different qualities, which are related to our intentions and our state of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And we're constantly projecting or emitting vibrations, and we're constantly influenced by the vibrations of everything around us. And we can feel vibrations when we enter a new place. It may just be kind of a neutral feeling, or we may feel a real warm feeling, like going to a house we haven't been to before, and we feel like this place has got really good energy. And other times we might go into a place and feel all of a sudden out of balance. We feel tensed up, and there's nothing obvious to make us feel that way, but it's what's been stored, the after effect of all the things that have taken place there. So I was thinking earlier today and getting ready for this class that we've had regular meditations here for the past 35 years. So there's been quite a lot of energy built up here, and the effect of that is that especially when we sit and meditate as a group, and this is noticed by people who may be very new to coming to a class, it's easier for them to get into the meditation because there's a collective vibration that can be very strong and easy to resonate with. Some recent research that I came across, which was kind of interesting, not surprising in a way, but interesting. It's been found that when people are working in cooperation, like they did a study on people that are being trained to be Air Force pilots, and they have them in simulators. And when they are really cooperating on the task, and you can imagine there's many things that they have to be aware of at the same time, their brain waves synchronize with each other, which is pretty far out. There's a group that's been in existence for many years called Heart Math that has been studying ways to help people bring their hearts into a state of coherence, a very healthy kind of rhythm, and it's been found that when people are tuned into each other, their heart rhythms sync with each other, and so it's not just that, well, we're kind of trying to do the same thing together. We're cooperating. Our energy fields and different aspects of our energy fields, brain waves are not very strong. And actually, the energy emitted by the electrical fields from the heart are much stronger than that of the brain. But different energy fields in our body are very much affected by energies around us, and they can be aligned. One of the primary aims of the Sufi is to try to harmonize with every situation, every person, every condition. And so a measure of this, we could say, would be a synchronization of different energy fields, as evidenced by what I just told you about this research. So we can notice when we're in this state of synchronicity with other people. It just feels like we're really in tune. That's another term Sufis like to use, attunement. So it's easy to feel when we're in tune, and perhaps it's even easier to feel when we're not. And the hectic nature of our lives is, it's much easier to be out of tune than it is to be in tune. And when we're out of tune, things don't go very smoothly. And if we're really out of tune, and maybe you've had days like this, you drop things, things break, things just don't go right, and you just think, well, this is just one of those days. But we don't realize how powerful the effect is of the state that we're in having an influence on the conditions around us. So let me read you a few other passages of Hazrat Inayat Khan. Color and sound are not only the language in which one communicates with the life without, but also the language in which one communicates with the life within. One might ask how it is done. We can see the answer in certain scientific experiments. Hazrat Inayat Khan was very much interested in science. Special plates are made, and by speaking near such a plate, marks are made upon the plate with sound and vibrations. These marks make either harmonious or inharmonious forms. If that is true, then every person, from morning till evening, is making invisible forms in space by what they say. They are creating invisible vibrations around them, and so they're producing an atmosphere. Therefore, it is that one person may come into the house, and before they speak, you're tired of them and you wish to get rid of them. Before they've said or done anything, you're finished with them. You would like for them to go away, for their atmosphere. They're creating a sound is going on which is disagreeable. And then there's another person with whom you feel sympathy, to whom you feel drawn, whose friendship you value, whose presence you long for. Harmony is continually created by them. That is sound also. So, sound in the way that Hazrat Inayat Khan is referring to certainly doesn't have to be audible. We can go all the way back to the creation in the scriptures, and in the beginning was the Word. That was the first thing, was vibration. And one interesting thing about physics that you may be aware of, it's impossible to cool anything to absolute zero, because if you could, all motion would stop. But if you're familiar with the uncertainty principle, you can't know both the location and momentum of a subatomic particle. So you can get arbitrarily close. And they've gotten down to, I think, billions or maybe even trillions of a degree, but they're never going to get all the way to absolute zero. So another way of thinking about this, the existence requires vibration. Existence requires movement. With the Big Bang, which cosmologists think was the origin of our universe, well, that set forth a very big vibration And some people won the Nobel Prize not too long ago for being able to measure the ripples created by gravity waves in the leftovers of the Big Bang. That vibration that started an estimated 13 plus billion years ago is still resonating everywhere in existence, everywhere through the universe. And so, how do we perceive vibration? Well, visibly, we perceive it through light. You look around, you see the different kinds of light in this room. We're familiar with the electromagnetic spectrum, the aspects we can see, the range of colors that we can see, and also the range that we can't see. We can't see infrared, we can't see ultraviolet. Same thing, sound. What is sound? Sound is vibration created in air, and there's different parts of the sound frequencies that we can hear. It depends on how good your hearing is, but it's, compared to other animals, it's pretty limited. It's maybe 20, whatever it is, hertz up to 20-something thousand, where some animals can hear up to 100,000, and elephants can hear subsonic sounds. And I've just listened, I think this was put on by NASA. They've actually recorded what they say are the sounds of space itself. And it's got like a low sound. It's very interesting to listen to that. So there's sound going on constantly, most of it inaudible to us. There's vibration going on constantly, and we can't see it, but we're affected by it, and sometimes we can perceive it. But there are things that we can do to affect our vibration, and there are things that we can do to affect our response to vibrations that come either externally or internally. So let me do a little segue over here, because as I was getting ready for this, I was thinking how interesting it is that some major themes really tie together here. There's vibration, there's rhythm, there's harmony, and then you can go into light and sound and energy and so on, different wavelengths of this and that. But let's think about rhythm for a bit. So in yoga, they talk about three major kinds of rhythms. One is sattva, which is or sentient, which is very peaceful and calm. It's a very desirable rhythm to be in for meditating. Not so much if you've got to do a lot of activity in the world. You know, got to have a little get up and go, and that's raja. It's the active one. Well, that one's not so helpful if you're trying to sit and meditate, because then you're feeling like thinking about a lot of things. You want to get up and do a lot of things. And then there's tamasic, the static rhythm, which is the one when you just don't feel like doing anything. You know, just feel like inertia. And that's not a good rhythm for anything. And that can be brought about by different kinds of things. One would be if someone drank a whole bunch, then chances are that's the alcohol, that's the rhythm they're going to be in. If someone's just not taking care of their basic needs, they're not eating properly, they're not sleeping properly, they could be in this rhythm. So we can bring ourselves out of one rhythm when it's desirable to be in another state. So we could bring ourselves out of the active rhythm if we're wanting to sit and meditate. And so how can we do that? Well, one very helpful way is to put on some music, and the music's got its own rhythm, and our brain likes to have something to tune into, and chances are our brain waves are going to start syncing to that music, and it's going to help slow things down. And then we have our practices. All of you are familiar with the elemental breaths, the purification breaths, earth, water, fire, air, and there's the ether breath also, and these help to bring our rhythms into alignment. Working with different meditation practices helps to bring ourselves into rhythm. So spiritual practices, one value of them is to help to tune ourselves each day before we get out into the hustle and bustle, or after we've been out in the hustle and bustle, to get things back into tune again, just like someone who has a musical instrument. You have to tune it. It's not going to stay in tune. It'll stay in tune for a while, but then you have to tune it again. And how much more so do we need to be mindful of this for ourselves? Okay. So what else throws us out of rhythm? Well, it's very easy to get thrown out of rhythm by our thoughts. So, we could be in a pretty peaceful state, and then we hear something, see something on TV, or you just even start thinking about something that gets you upset. And what happens? It kind of just escalates. It tends to escalate, and our brains like for things to make sense, so you find more reasons to be upset about something, and then you're really out of whack. So we can recognize when that happens, and Hazrat Inayat Khan talks about something called muwakkals. He says that our thoughts actually have a life to them. We think, and the effects of that thought may go on for a very long time, and we don't realize that. And it may have an effect at a distance. Like if you have ill thoughts about someone, they could be very far away, but they may be affected by those. And conversely, if you have very loving thoughts towards someone, they may not, have a feeling, oh, so-and-so is thinking good things about me, but there's an effect on that, what becomes available to them. So let me see if I can find this quote, because I thought this was... Yeah, I'm not sure the spelling, Muwakkul or something like that. Okay, this one I thought was a wonderful quote. For a Sufi, at the beginning of their training, the spiritual life is desirable, but after mastering it, material and spiritual lives become the same to them. They are master of both. So we're not just trying to become a stereotype of what we think of as being spiritual. And I found another quote in here. I didn't mark it, so I don't know that I can find it, but Hazrat Inayat Khan was talking about the true religion is not just a belief in some system, but a true religion is the way of living in your world all the time. It's how you go about your life. And he would add to that, it's how you go about trying to harmonize with all that you're experiencing. And harmonizing does not mean agreeing with someone who's doing something horrible or you totally disagree with, but it's finding a way to relate to them where you're not in a very separated state of being, where you can see past as we've talked about many times before, the surface appearance of whatever state they might be in, which might be a horrible state. And it'd be very easy just to, want to run away and react to that. But if you can see past that, and Pure Light would always talk about, well, try getting to the consciousness of that person. What might their world be like? And maybe there's reasons why they're in such a horrible, awful state. And you see them in a different light. So that's a way of shifting vibration. We can shift the vibrational state of our mind, which has a very powerful effect on ourselves and on the environment, into one that can bring healing and transformation to the same situation. So the Sufis like to talk about their realm. What does that mean? The realm is like the domain that you have responsibility in. Well, we have one aspect of our realm is our family situation, our relationships, close relationships. Another one is our friends. Another one is our community, and so on. And so the Sufi wants to take responsibility for the realm, and in the spiritual hierarchy, there's different terms for their different positions, so to speak, like, and I won't try to go through all the names, but one position would be someone who has the responsibility for a community, and it doesn't mean they're going to be on the city council, but it means that, like, spiritually, they have an effect on that area. And someone may have a capacity for a much greater scope of influence for, it could be for a whole country. And then the beings called the Rasul, the divine messengers, their domain is the whole world, not for a particular people or for a particular belief system. So we want to take care of whatever falls in our realm. Well, one way that Hazrat Inayat Khan talks about doing this is to take responsibility for all the thoughts that we have, all the emotional reactions that we have, little this and that throughout the day. And he talks about the world as like a giant dome, and what we put out is eventually going to come back, the reflection of that. So if we're putting out loving and harmonizing thoughts, then that's going to be what reverberates back to us. But more important to that than that, that's going to be what resonates throughout our whole realm. Okay. So I'm going to look at some little tidbits I jotted down for this. Well, another way that our vibrations have an impact on us. I was watching a real interesting little video. There's a woman named Dr. Valerie Hunt, who is a professor emeritus from UCLA, who has been doing research on auras for I don't know how many years. And at UCLA, this started many years ago. They actually developed a machine that can measure the different frequencies that come from a person's aura, and then they would bring medical intuitives in that could actually see the aura, and they would have the same conclusion. Like this one would say, well, there's red over here. Well, the machine would pick up, there's a subtle frequency of red over this area of the body. So these are not imaginary phenomena, they're real and they are measurable phenomena. Well, where this little story is going, the video I watched before this class was just a short clip of showing what, and this would take movies of the aura, it wasn't just a still picture. And so it had little clips, like one was a dog coming to greet its owner, and when the dog jumped up on there, it's like this beautiful blue color in both of them. You could see the effect of that, the love both ways. And another part was a mother sitting on the floor, and her young toddler comes up and sits next to her, and you can see kind of their energies blending, and then this beautiful, powerful white light comes out all over the place. And they're not doing any special effects. This is just what happens. Well, interestingly, one of the little segments they had was someone eating some food from a fast food restaurant. They were scarfing down some, I don't know what it was, like some kind of sandwich, and they had French fries, but there were no colors, there was no energy. It was like there was no aura visible in the food or in them. And then they showed another person, first just in front of them was a plate with fruits and grains and healthy foods, and before they even took a bite, you could see the aura of the food and the person's aura, but when they ate it, you could see like this energy blending together. And so this was showing like the food from a fast food restaurant has no life to it. I mean, it would keep you alive, it's got protein, so but it doesn't have any life energy. But food that's healthy and wholesome definitely does. And in India, the Brahmins, the highest caste, those are the cooks, because they realize the importance of the vibes that the cook puts into the food that's being prepared. And I'm sure we've all had the experience. You can eat at two different restaurants. I'm not talking about fast food restaurants, but two different restaurants, and maybe one of them is a nice chain restaurant. They have good food, and it's. But then you go to a place that may be small or just kind of a family restaurant, and maybe it's not so fancy, but it's like, oh, this food is so wonderful, but it's like the energy in that food is so satisfying. And Diane and I both love cooking, and we love cooking both because we're good cooks and we make tasty things, but I think we also love it because of the energy that we're putting into the food, and we're not sitting here going, well, I'm going to put this energy into this food. I mean, when you're really enjoying what you're doing and you're doing it in a loving way, that's going to be a natural consequence. So that vibration is actually put into the food, and it certainly has an effect on when you eat that food or when someone else eats that food. And even getting ready for this class, I swept the floor around here, tidied things up, which I would do anyway, but as I'm doing it, I mean, it's just this feeling, well, I'm going to really make the energy in this room nice for when people come. And it feels really good to do that. So the effect of our environment, if you're in an environment where things are just really scattered, doesn't mean it's terrible, but when you can get even a part of that just kind of really made nice, you feel the effects of that. Every so often, my office, I'll have desk cleaning and I'll fill up 3 garbage bags of stuff that's been piling up that I thought maybe I'll need this someday. But it feels so good to do that. It really frees up energy. So that's another way that we can change energy. We can change the energy that is affecting us from the environment that we're in. We can change the energy that we put out. So I'd like for us to do some little tidbit meditations just for examples of the effect on our vibration, not just individually, but as we're doing this, I hope you'll also notice the effect on the energy in the room as I have us just briefly hold different things in our concentration and just see what happens. So this is an experiment. Okay. So close your eyes. And first, just think of the word peace. Okay. Now just focus on the color red, bright red. And notice as we do these different things what happens to your energy and your vibrations. Bright red, fire engine red. Okay, next, just think of something that makes you angry. And let yourself feel, just for a little bit, feel angry. Notice what happens to your breathing. Okay, let go of that one, and now think about sky blue. It's the vast blue sky. Now think about a raging river, rapids. Now think about a very calm stream. And now think about a mountain. And now think about a beautiful rose. Think about angelic light, celestial light. Think about your heart open and filled with love. And some more from Hazrat Inayat Khan. Perfection does not lie in the innocence of a child, nor does it lie in being a jinn or a fairy. It lies in going through all vibrations from the highest plane to this one, in experiencing all. The phenomena of Christ walking on the water from a mystical point of view is suggestive of a much greater philosophy than only a phenomenon. The whole universe in all its forms is one single vision of a constant activity. From beginning to end, every aspect of life represents motion. And it is the perpetual motion of the whole universe which is called life. Therefore, the universe is, so to speak, an ocean of vibrations, and every movement represents a wave. The wise have called it, in Sanskrit, Bhava Sagara, the ocean of life, and the great devotees have constantly prayed to be liberated, that they may not sink in this ocean, but they may be able to swim in it, which is called Tarana. And it is the Master Spirit that can rise above these waves of the enormous ocean of life, in which generally souls are drowned. To be in it, to be able to stand above it and to walk on it, is the phenomenon of Christ walking on it. And as one goes further in the soul's unfoldment, one finally arrives at the stage of revelation. Life begins to reveal itself. The whole of life, each soul becomes communicative, not only living beings, but each thing. The Sufis have considered the development of the heart quality as a spiritual culture and have called it the culture of the heart. It consists of the tuning of the heart. Tuning means changing the pitch of the vibrations. Tuning the heart means changing the vibrations, bringing them to a certain pitch, which is the natural one, where you feel the joy and ecstasy of life, which enables you to give pleasure to others even by your presence, because you are tuned. So I'm going to put some music on just for a bit. And as you listen, see if you can allow it to help tune any vibrations in your being that are out of rhythm, out of harmony, not by effort, but allowing them to come into a natural resonance. So let us aim to become harmonizers in this world, which is in such great need of harmony. Let us become tuners, not only of ourselves, but helping to tune situations we find ourselves in by getting ourselves into a clear and strong rhythm with a vibration whose tendency is going to be for others that we're in contact with, for their vibrations to come into resonance with ours, and maybe help themselves to restore their own attunement. Each of us is a part of the symphony of the music of the spheres. So it's our responsibility to keep our unique instruments in tune. May the message of love, harmony, and beauty reach far and wide. Amen.